Welcome to episode 14 of Thrashcast. My name is Billy, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Jim and Ken. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good.
Awesome.
Great,
Man, we're
great.
talking metal. What gets better than that?
Absolutely.
There you go. And in case my background looks a little different, I'm doing a bit of traveling. I'm in the Canadian province of PEI, so kind of in a little inn here. So I don't have my records in the background as I normally do, and no props either. But yeah, just a quick reminder where you can find Thrashcast online at www.horrormetalsounds.com. And of course, on YouTube, where you can see the full video. It's at Horror Metal Sounds at KenG.2864. So we got a great topic for everyone today. The band is Slayer. Certainly
Yeah.
needs no introduction. We're going to cover the South of Heaven album, released in 1988, and something we haven't really done before, ranking the songs. So we're going to rank our top 10 Slayer songs. So that was an interesting task, but I'm curious to see, Jim and Ken, what you ended up with. It was a fun exercise.
hmm
That was
Um,
hard.
Yeah,
yeah.
I can see that.
So yeah, before we go there, I know we don't have a lot of news this week. It's kind of a bit of a slow news week, but let's see what we got. Nothing on my end, so I'm going to my co-host here. Ken, what would you like to mention?
Yeah, there's one small news item for this week. There is the announcement of Bastardane. That is the groove metal band formed by James Hetfield's son Castor, who plays
Nice.
drums and sings in the band. So they just announced a 24-date summer tour, and they're going to be touring with another band, which I don't know them. Otto, which is Robert Trujillo's son, Ty, who's the bass player in that band. So it should be interesting. I think it's more like groove metal more than anything else. They do have a couple of dates. Well, I think they have several dates in Canada. One in Toronto and one in Montreal that starts at the beginning of August and ends in September. So that should be interesting. For those who are wondering what Bastardane are like, it's sort of, I guess, a cross between Down, Black Label Society, COC, and maybe a little bit of Clutch. So
Cool.
interesting sounds. I'm not sure I'm really into it. I sampled some of their stuff on YouTube. It's all right, but anyways, it's kind of cool to see like these thrash legends and the kids now playing music. So that's kind of a cool thing. It was just the small thing I just saw noted. I think earlier on today. So that's kind of cool.
Well,
And
I
as
wonder.
for yeah, was that
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say,
yeah.
I wonder if like Metallica would take them out. Like, talk about getting them in
Yeah.
front of a load of people, eh?
They might. It's funny online though. There's a lot of vitriol. A lot of people are saying like, that it's like, oh well, they're just the sons of famous thrash
Yeah.
legends, and like, come on, like I'm sure these kids earned, they've earned their own style and sound. Like they don't, not going to rely on daddy to get them a job. It's so some people online comments can be really stupid. But anyways,
Mm.
but yeah, I wonder that too. Maybe they might go on tour or open up for Metallica. That would be kind of neat. I mean, opening up for your
Yeah.
dad's band, like why not? But
Yeah, I mean, bands that have been around for 25 years would kill to get that opportunity.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's kind of funny, but I mean, all the power to them as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Castor kind of looks like James. He's got like the long blonde hair, and it's like, yeah, he looks just like his dad. So it's kind of funny, but
Mm.
doesn't really sing like him. Some people were saying he sounds like James, but from the songs I heard, I didn't get that impression at all. But it's cool. He's a drummer. He's a singer. It's kind of cool. But
Mm.
Wicked.
Nice.
yeah, that's my only news item. And then when I was spinning, I know we were discussing earlier about maybe talking a little bit about Grip Inc. if there was time. You mentioned that, Billy, and was one of your questions. So I was actually spinning Grip Inc. earlier on today. This is Dave Lombardo's solo project that he did in 1995. They had like four solid albums. The first album is probably my favorite of the bunch. I really like it. That opening track, Torque de Murto, is pretty cool with the drums. It's pretty wild. It's just too bad that the band only lasted like 4 albums, but I think the singer passed away in 2008, if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken. So I don't know if that was the reason why the band split up, but it was some pretty solid, like kind of groove alternative rock metal for the time. But yeah, that's what I was spinning this week. Not too much though
Cool.
for me.
Cool. I mean, Dave's got no shortage of stuff to do, right?
No,
He's all over the place.
no, he's a busy man. He's always been a busy dude working.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Jim?
Just one quick news kind of item released today was the Judas Priest Sabaton second half North American tour. So there'll be, I think there's two Canadian dates, one in Montreal, I think in first week of September, and then a couple nights later in Ontario on the Niagara side in the Falls View casino. So that's kind of neat.
Hmm.
I'd love to see. I saw Priest, I think 2 years ago here. I was a concert that was canceled due to COVID. Then they rebooked it with Queensryche, so it was a pretty good show. And I was kind of mad though because I'd love to see Sabaton right now, going through a massive Sabaton kick as of late. So I'd love to see them live. I know Billy, you've seen them at Wacken, I think.
Yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah, yeah, they've got a live Wacken. I think their last live album was all from Wacken. It sounds amazing. I mean, the band, from what I everybody says, they're better live than even on their albums.
Yeah, I was
So
just gonna say that, like far better.
yeah.
For me, like, yeah, I'll usually always try to go see them, but like the albums, I tend not to go back to, but the songs just work so well live.
So what I'm spinning is I just got in the mail this
Ah,
classic, and of course this is the remastered one from '97. So I'm getting ready to I've got my pre-order of the Cavalera Conspiracy for the re-recording of Schizophrenia, and I think I'm really looking forward to it. The two tracks released so far are awesome. I mean, it's just going to be great. So I wanted to have side by side kind of the remastered version. I think I originally have it on cassette somewhere, but no, wicked album, and it definitely I think it's great that I love the re-recording too. I think it's and they're doing it so well. It's not a change, it's just maybe a little bit more of an improvement, because the original version of this is it's pretty it's got some age to it, but I mean this album stands up anyways. I love it. One of my, I've got, I think my favorite would be Beneath the Remains, but this is like probably in my top three for sure of Sepultura albums. So really excited to get that new release coming. I think it's June 21st, so
Yep,
that'll be
that's
pretty
right.
cool.
oh, good. It's coming up soon. I have a
Yeah,
pre-order in, but I forgot when it comes out.
Cool.
I'm sure Billy, when you go back home, you're probably gonna have a big pile of stuff outside the door.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. The guy who takes care of the building always goes and collects them.
Oh, good.
So,
So no porch pirates.
Yeah.
yeah, I know. I mean, because I live in a condo, it would have to be like stolen by someone else in the condo. So
True.
chances are someone would steal it, see it's heavy metal, and bring it back. It's
I don't like this shit.
not for everybody.
Yeah, no. No,
Uh,
that's it for me, guys.
okay,
Cool.
cool. Hey, and speaking of Sepultura, Beneath the Remain, that would make for a good podcast, eh?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
trying to keep that up for you.
All right. Given we kind of already talked about that, we'll let it out of the bag. That's next week's podcast. So,
Yeah.
Sepultura Beneath the Remain, one of my all-time favorite albums.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so then let's move on to our Slayer topic. So I figured it'd be a quick bio, but I ended up with a few more notes than I thought I would. But as said, Slayer certainly no introduction needed, but I do have one. Part of the U.S. Big Four. Formed in 1981 in California, the OG lineup, and I would say the best lineup in my opinion, was Tom Murray on vocals, Jeff Hanneman on guitar, Kerry King on guitar, and Dave Lombardo on drums. And as we talk about the South of Heaven lineup, that was also the lineup that we'll be discussing today. 12 studio albums, not including live albums, EPs, box sets, lots of stuff out there. Yeah, one thing that surprised me is I didn't realize Slayer even had a single Grammy nomination, but they had five of them,
Yeah.
and actually won twice. Mainly for material off Christ Illusion. So that was a bit of a surprise to me. None of the classic stuff got anything
Mm-mm.
though. Two key lineup changes, and again, I think most people know this, but drummer Dave Lombardo actually left a total of three times for various varying lengths for a very brief period during the Rain of Blood tour in 1992, and then finally in 2013 he was fired, but there was a nasty financial disagreement amongst the band members. I mean, ultimately, Paul Bostoff replaced him. John Deet from Testament stepped in a little bit as well. In 2011, this was the start of the big news. Jeff Hanneman was diagnosed with necrotizing fasciitis, which is also known as the flesh-eating disease. So I think we all know Gary Holt. Gary Holt stepped in from Exodus. And then very sadly, May 2nd, 2013, Jeff sadly passed away. Liver failure was the cause there. I know Tom Araya, vocalist and bassist, had some doubts about returning without Jeff, but ultimately him and Kerry decided to keep going. That lasted for about 5 more years. And then lastly, Slayer went out on a massive farewell tour, 2018 and 19. And then really did sort of retire fully. And then we just started to get wind of a few brief shows this year in 2024. So that kind of gets us up to speed. Anything you guys want to add to the bio?
Well, the only thing I'll say about Jeff though is like the spider bite. It was from a spider bite that caused the flesh-eating disease, but that wasn't really the cause of his death. I think he at the same time he was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. So
Yeah.
I think there were like two competing like illnesses, which I guess maybe spiraled one into the other from what I remember reading. So it's kind of
Yeah.
sad. They're really, really sad because he is like the brains behind Slayer, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
Yeah, no, 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 true. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, yeah, it was definitely the liver
Yeah,
issues, and a lot of the media note it's alcohol related. I mean, I
yeah.
don't know if it was or if it wasn't, but either way, he was a killer metal musician, that's for sure.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then I came up with a couple questions just related to Slayer and the Slayer career. So question number one, prior to the retirement I mentioned, were you guys looking at Slayer the same way as the old days? I mean, was it really the same Slayer without Jeff and Dave? I mean, they were a pretty big part of it. And as Ken said, Jeff was certainly one of the main songwriter. So just wanted to get your thoughts. Jim, why don't you start us here?
Well, I mean, no, yes and no. I kind of peg myself as I like the latter day Slayer. I love it. I mean, obviously I love the original albums, from everything from Seasons Down was just amazing. But I like their last stuff they did. Very disappointed that they retired when they did. I understand it, but I think they still had relevant albums in them. I know that the member changeover and stuff like that changed a lot of fans, and I read a lot of not really positive views on and opinions on the latter Slayer albums, but for me, I thought there's a lot of great stuff in their latter day stuff, and you know, I know you said just a little minute ago about the kind of one-off shows. You know, I think it's a great idea. I would love to have Slayer come back. I would definitely be there with money in hand to go see any incarnation of Slayer, you know, and want to really just see it again. I mean, it's kind of that's the romanticism. The romantic in me wants to just. I mean, I love that band. So, but I can see how fans definitely gravitate obviously towards the older stuff and the original lineup, which the classic lineup. I mean, you can't beat that. But I think there's a lot of relevance in the newer stuff that they put out.
Cool. Ken, how about you?
I'll keep it very, very brief. No, I do not. I do not. I like, look, I don't hate Kerry King. I think he's a very talented guitar player, but he's not the brains behind Slayer. I've always said this. Jeff Hanneman to me is Slayer. He had the better riffs. He wrote the better songs. His lyrics were pretty deep at times. I just was a huge fan of early Slayer. And then when you lose Dave, Dave was such an intricate like part of the band for the drumming wise and what he added to the band back in the classic albums. It's never been repeated. Yeah, you bring in like Paul Bostaph, you bring in John Dente. That's fine. They're all good musicians, but they're not Dave. Dave's an incredible talent. And when he left the band, he aired his dirty laundry in public. Of course, it was all about money. He didn't get his fair split, and that's fine. And I think that originally the split. Not that I want to go off on a tangent here, but originally he was the one looking into their books and noticed that their management company was pretty much like taking a large piece of the pie. So he brought it up to those guys, to Kerry and to Tom, and they told him just to back off. But he persisted on that one thought. So I think that also contributed to why he ultimately was let go of the band, which is too bad because maybe they could have had a better business sense, but that's beside the point. At the end of the day, the modern Slayer sound is all right. I don't think it's bad. There was a couple of Slayer albums that I do like. I mean, I love World Painted Blood a lot. I do like Christ Illusion. So there were some good things there, but it's just to me, I don't know. Once Jeff died and Dave left, it's not really Slayer in the sense of the Slayer we know. And the one thing I'm just going to add quickly that really bugged me was the fact that you bring in like Gary, and he's a great guitar player in himself. And I felt like he didn't really add to Slayer. Like I was hoping that, especially on Repentless, because he was on the recording sessions, you'd think he would be a large contributing factor, but he really wasn't. And that's kind of a shame. And it's just a shame that I think they wasted his potential because King, I believe, has a huge ego, and I have to do this all myself, kind of thing, and it's just too bad. But I'm saying no. I'm on the other side. I like the classic stuff. Modern stuff's okay, but no for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you, Ken. I think, I mean, Gary's such a good songwriter as well, right? Like, I think Carrie didn't want to be overshadowed.
Yeah.
Jeff was probably on a leash in what he could or couldn't do, and that's the way it was.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I kind of fall, I guess, a bit more in Ken's camp on this one. Yeah, I mean, Ken, you said it, right? I mean, Jeff was the best songwriter in the band. And so I think I definitely missed him. And as you said, Dave, I mean, so many of the classic Slayer songs, the best parts of the songs where normally we would say, what a great riff, or what a great, like, bass line. I mean, so many of the best parts of Slayer songs are from Dave,
Yeah.
like his drumming. So yeah, I think they were both missed. So yeah, I would agree. I never quite looked at the band the same way, but I will say, and this sort of feeds into what Jim was saying about he would sort of cough up as money as I would, is that when it came to playing live, live. The later lineup with Gary and Paul on drums, they were fantastic live. Everybody came together and put on an amazing show, so it worked, right? So I certainly can knock Slayer for continuing, because the tours and the live shows were amazing with the new members. But in terms of writing the new material, that's where I thought it kind of fell off without Dave and Jeff. But so
Well, most of the
sorry.
writing on Repentless and that was pretty much Kerry King and Araya, except for like Piano Wire, I think was like one that was from Hanneman. So yeah, the writing went totally into their hands, and I totally agree. It's not as good for sure, but I just I just romanticize it, I think, and just want Slayer
Yeah,
back.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fair.
No,
That's fair.
I'm with you, and I like songs from all the later albums too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, definitely. And Slayer are probably my all-time favorite band from beginning to end. So I'm in the same camp as you as well, Jim.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. So I always found this intriguing, like this farewell tour. I mean, this was a massive tour, right? I mean, three international tour legs. On each of the three tours, they brought like three or four major bands with them to open. Like I think on the first leg, you had Testament and Anthrax
Yeah, that's
on
right.
the opening bill, right? So I mean, you literally had another big four member, and arguably another band that should have been in the big four. But yeah, so and then filling out these massive stadiums and arenas. I mean, very rare for a band not named Metallica. What are your thoughts on that tour? Like, what do you guys think? Ken, how about you take this?
Um, I guess it was good for what it was. Again, it's not a classic lineup. It's just this band, I guess, trying to, cross the T's and dot the I's and say, yeah, we're done. And it's no secret that Tom had his fill of it all, with the injuries and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and the fact that I think a large part of it for him was the fact that he was a born again, or I don't think he was even a born again Christian, but because he swung to the side of his Catholic beliefs, a lot of the Slayer songs went against that, right? So maybe that was a large contributing factor. Unfortunately, that Toronto show I missed. I was set to go to that show, but I got sick and ended up missing it. So I kicked myself for not
Oh.
seeing it. I wish I did see it, but I had friends involved went there and they had a really good time and said it was a really really good show. Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's hard to say. In the end, was it all worth it? I don't know. They had their time. They played their last show. What was Los Angeles? I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Los
There were a
Angeles. And
couple, two or
yeah, there was
three
a couple.
on that
Right,
last
right.
one.
Yeah, there was a couple.
Yeah.
They did what they wanted to do and they left.
Mhm.
So all the power to them for doing that. I mean, that's all I can pretty much say about it from my perspective.
Yeah. Jim, any thoughts?
Yeah, so many, like, you have bands like Kiss who went on a farewell tour for, I don't know, 30 years.
Forever. Yeah.
Had like you had Motley Crue do the same thing where they even had a legal document signed that they were never going to tour again. And it's like, okay, and then everybody's getting kind of freaked out, well, they said they weren't going to tour, but I find there's a different kind of feel in the air when they release those couple of Slayer dates for the a few of the festivals. People were excited online. Nobody was really calling out saying, but they're retired and they're reneging on their promise of, I guess, promise or their retirement. People were just genuinely, I think, excited. I think it's a different type of, I think Slayer didn't necessarily finish. They finished more on their terms, and the slide was maybe starting to happen, but they didn't slide down. So like down, down, down. So it didn't become like a bit of a parody of itself. So I really, really like the fact that I always feel they kind of went out. I thought they went out too early, but that's just me, and I get it. There was a lot of inner band turmoil that came out since, and the fact that Tom just didn't want to do it anymore. And I respect that, but I think especially for festivals, I think this is going to be a big draw. I think they're doing are they doing Wacken, or are they doing they're doing
No,
no. They're doing
no.
they're doing some, I think, something in Chicago, correct? And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
that's going to
Yeah, they're
add.
not really leaving the US.
No, and I think that's going to be. I mean, that's going to be such a big draw for the bill, and I think that's everybody's going to want to see and see what. Oh man, what's this about? What I think it's just really cool. I don't think they're going to. My opinion is I don't think they're going to get together and do another album. I don't even.
No.
I'd love to see them do a tour, but I don't think that's going to be it. I think it's just going to be one-offs. Hey, they may play Wacken in the future. That would be really cool. And I just think these festival dates they're just make it interesting. And hey, why not? I mean, they can pretty much, I would assume, be able to name their price and decide, okay, this is what we want to do. This is how much we want to do, how much we want to work, and how much we don't. And I think that's pretty cool. And so they're doing it on their terms. I'm cool with that.
Yep. No, cool. Yeah, no, I feel pretty strongly about this tour actually. I did sort of see it 5 times on the farewell tour. I got to see it
Mhm.
in Toronto, Montreal, Germany, New Jersey, Philadelphia, kind
Oh
of on
wow,
the border of the two,
cool.
uh, and then New York at Madison Square Garden. So for me, like what I think, I mean, these guys like the last show, the last time I saw them was at Madison Square Garden. I mean, this is an arena that Billy Joel sells out,
Mhm.
regularly, right? This is not something Slayer should be selling out.
No.
Uh, so for them to pull in like 18,000 people in a major like hockey, a full-size hockey arena, that's pretty damn incredible, right? Like, so what I loved about the tour was all the fans coming out to show respect to Slayer. I
Yeah.
mean, this is one of the like I just can't see people coming out in these numbers to see Anthrax or a
No,
Mega farewell
no.
tour, right? Like
No.
Mm-mm.
18,000, like every one of these shows I saw, all across North America or Canada and the US, they all were pretty much close to 18,000 people. So that's pretty incredible. And the German date was like 80,000 people. So
Hmm.
yeah, so that's what I loved about it, right? I mean, like Jim said, Slayer went out on their own terms, but then the fans came out to recognize them, and both, that final connection between artist and fan was pretty incredible on that tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then that led into and my next question. So, and I think Jim, you kind of answered it a bit, but just I was going to ask, were you guys surprised when you finally heard that Slayer were coming back this year for these two? I think it's two one-off reunion shows.
Hmm.
Jim, anything else you wanted to add to that, or?
Pleasantly surprised. I mean, I think I even posted on my Facebook that somebody had put out a fake tour. Remember? I think you
Oh,
probably
true.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah, yeah.
messaged me. Where'd you get this? And it was a fake. It was an old tour. Somebody updated it with new dates and just put it out there to probably get suckers like me posting and going like, "Yeah, look, the tour." And anyways, they weren't. So, but no, I just pleasantly surprised, and I think it's really cool. I think for the metal movement, it's going to be really, really neat. It's going to be a total greatest hits set list. So what the heck, man? This is I just hope they just put on a really good show, and they really, it's going to be awesome. I would it would be a privilege to see them.
Yeah. Yeah, I was I guess for me I wasn't surprised. I guess I was surprised because the announcements came out a couple days after Kerry kind of launched his tour and did all the media and kind of had some negative things to say about his band members, right? So that was kind of bizarre that Kerry would do all that, and then it's kind of like getting all his promotion one up by Slayer, who came out a couple couple of days later and said we're doing these, albeit just like two shows, but that was kind of odd. But then I'm also not surprised because I always expected them to come back for a couple shows a year, kind of like Jim was saying, like bigger festival shows. I mean, it's interesting for them to get back out there on the stage, but financially it must be pretty good as well. And I think you said it or someone said it, but like I do really think Tom's back and neck is really messed up, right? Like when you
Yeah.
see Tom perform, it's so different than the Tom back in the 80s and the 90s. I mean, he's just standing there. He does not move. And so you could tell there's something not right there. So yeah, so I never expected him to come back with a major tour, just given his back and neck issues. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Ken, anything you want to add?
Well, the dumb thing for me is that Carrie said, "Well, I hadn't talked to Tom in 6 years," which is so stupid to
Yes.
say. It was like, why would you fucking say that? It's stupid. Obviously, you
Yeah.
worked out a deal with him to do the Slayer reunion shows.
Yeah.
So it's like I just thought Carrie King came across like an idiot to me personally. I don't know. I mean, I was surprised that
It's
they.
true. Something. Yeah.
I don't know. He looks like an idiot to me. And then Tom's wife's coming out and she's bitching about all this, and it's like, all right, this is getting to be kind of stupid here. Like, just whatever. So the PR was really bad. I was a bit
Yeah.
surprised that they were going to tour again. To me, I was surprised. I didn't expect it. I figured it was done and over with. But kudos to coming back. I think it's great. And yeah, Jim's a huge fan, obviously, and you are too, Billy. So of course, fans of Slayer are still going to want to come out to see these shows. So it's good in that sense. To me, from my point of view, it's just the PR was just so bad.
It's so
Unfortunately,
crazy. Well, I think you and
stupid.
I, Ken, were sending emails around, and probably
Yeah,
Jim
yeah, it
too.
was.
Just what
Yeah,
the hell's going on?
yeah,
Like it
because
was
I was like, why
bizarre.
you announce a solo album finally, and the solo album just got released out of the blue, even though they were working on it in secret. It
Yeah.
just shows up. Oh, solo album, okay. And I thought, well, that's really cool. But then he's like saying all this dumb shit about Tom and like, dude, this is your partner. Like, I don't get it. I just very strange. It was a very, very strange the way it all came about. But at the end of the day, Slayer fans are going to be happy because they get to see them play a few dates, which is great.
Yep.
And if you love the solo record, you got that too. So I guess in the end, people are going to be leaving happy.
Yep. I guess the other thing I thought, well, actually, I just thought of it now, but like, there's a good chance they might, to keep the income flow going, record like a live album while they're
They
there,
could.
right?
Yep.
That would make some sense, or a DVD. I
Yep.
mean, I'd buy it.
Yeah.
I think most Slayer fans would buy it. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
guaranteed. So yeah, you're right. There could be a live recording. It would make sense. Why not?
yeah. Cool. So then, combining all this stuff together, so as we said, unlikely to be a new Slayer album. So probably the closest thing we're gonna get is the recent Kerry King solo band. So I know there's a lot of debate across the metal world. Some love it, some hate it, some are in the middle. So wanted to kind of get your thoughts. Ken, why don't you kick us off here?
Well, I didn't like it at first. I heard it and I wasn't a fan. But you know what? I've been listening to it a few more times and I've sort of come around a bit. It's all right. Someone I was reading at somebody on YouTube and one of the comments was saying it sounded like God Hates Us All. I'm like, yeah, it does have that kind of flavor. Just the way that Tom was singing on that album and how Mark sings on this new album. It's all right. There are some songs that I actually don't mind. Like I don't mind Where I Rain, Trophies of the Tyrant. I don't mind. Rage is okay. I like the title track from Hell I Rise. There are some good songs on it. It's not. I don't know. I mean, I'm just not 100% sold on it. But I can see why Slayer fans like it, and I can see why they would say this is like a continuation of Slayer, which it technically is. But you know, I do like the lineup is great. I mean, you have Phil Demmel playing on guitar. You know, you have what's his face on bass. I forget his name offhand. And then, you know, so you like, and you have Mark on vocals, of course. So I mean, like, you have it's a really good band, and then Paul Bostoff on drums. So
Yeah.
it's a good solid band. Let's see. I want to see what they do with it though. Like, I know they're talking about actually recording another studio album, which is kind of interesting. They're going to be going. I know they got European dates lined up. I think in the fall, if I remember reading somewhere. So like, we'll see where they go with it. And the one thing I want to know is, will they be able to keep Phil on guitar, because he has a habit of like hopping from band to band. Like, he's already out of Violence already, because he got into a big tiff with the singer Killian. So it's like, okay, so you've left Machine Head, you've left Violence, now you're with him. Are you going to leave Carrie? So so there's a lot of things that are going to be interesting in the next 6 months to a year to see where they go. But I mean, it's encouraging. It's encouraging overall.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Phil, and so it kind of goes back to the conversation we had with underusing Kerry, underusing Gary Holt. Like,
Yeah,
I also don't think Phil had much, right? Like, Phil's
yeah,
somebody who I think is easily equally as good as Kerry or better,
yep.
and so he was very much underused as well on the album. But so Jim, who hopefully, folks, and if you haven't, Jim wrote a review for the new Kerry King album,
I did.
and it's up under our Thrashcast, under the Thrashcast banner. So many may have seen it. So I know Jim likes the album. Jim, how about sharing a couple thoughts on it?
Oh, it's a masterpiece. I mean, I love it. It's the continuation of Slayer. It's a bag of angry bees. It's thrash metal. It's awesome. I want, this isn't even an all-star band. This is a mega band. Kerry put it together. Like Kerry King or hate Kerry King. I mean, a lot of people don't like him, and I get that, totally get that. But man, he's got a kick-ass band together here, and I think they're going into the studio, apparently, what I read, yeah, after the tour, and he's
Okay.
already got, I think, half the album already written. They're going to record and hopefully release again in 2025. So I
Wow.
I think that's just great, and I man, and it's kind of really mixed. There's a lot of people who like it. There's a lot of people who hate it, and a lot of people compare it to maybe the more recent Slayer, and that's fine. But like he was quote, I think it was, I can't remember who was quoted in it. It said, "Well, yeah, it sounds like Slayer because Kerry King's sounds like Slayer." So, but I mean, I think it's a great album. It's probably going to make my top 10 of 2024, and I mean, I listen to it. Favorite song, Two Fists. That thing is just a thrash anthem. And I mean, when you listen to it, I've listened to it probably about, I don't know, 50 times already. And I mean, I find it's got a lot of punk vibe to it. It's got really good groove to it. It's not a technical thrash album, but it's got some great moments in it. And I think for first trek out for Kerry King to do this. I think they pulled it off, and you know, I hope that they maybe tweak it a little bit for the second album, and hopefully the band members all stay, and like maybe Phil gets a little bit more freedom, and we'll see. But I like the fast turnaround. I think that's good that they're going to put something else out. It's going to totally keep them relevant, and definitely like Ken was saying, the marketing for the whole couple of Slayer dates falling right on to this. I mean, this was planned, and all, but I don't understand the kind of negative comments like, I haven't talked to Tom in so many years. That was just kind of stupid. It's like you're pretending, and then you're like, we're fans. We just want to we want to have Slayer again, and I mean, yeah, if Slayer was to put out a new album, I'd buy it. I'd buy it. I'll be 100% honest. I pre-order it today, even if it's not even written yet. So, but I mean, I thought it was an exciting album. I really, really like it, but I do get where it's really split. And, but we'll see where it goes. Apparently, the tour is going to be pretty cool, and I can't wait to see some live, a lot of live excerpts and stuff like that. I think it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, no, I'd be curious to see it live myself.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I'm kind of like like Ken, it's grown on me. I continue to listen to it, and like musically it's largely grown on me. But I gotta say, like, I'm still struggling a bit with Mark's vocals on the album. I mean,
Yeah.
I love Mark in Death Angel. I love Death Angel, but I don't know, like for some reason I find he's trying too hard to shout as opposed to sing.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
feels like he's trying to be or sing in a similar style as Tom. But as I said, it's growing on me and I'm liking it more with each listen. So yeah, I guess just got to get used to it, right? I mean, musically it sounds like Slayer, so anything that's not Tom is going to throw you off, I guess. And so I'm probably just going through a bit of that right now.
Yeah,
Um,
but you know what though, Billy? Like the way I look at it, he can sort of try and ape Tom's style, but Tom could also sing too. Tom's a really good singer when he's not
yeah, well, we're
screaming
going
and
to talk about
shouting.
that on this album, I'm sure.
Right, right. But what I'm saying, what I just want to just to add on to your point, if Mark did applied some of the what he sings in Dark and Death Angel to this, I think it would be actually be a lot better. I would like it even more
True.
because
I
then
agree.
Mark's vocals are a much wider range because right now they're flat. They just every song is the same. That's my biggest issue. Is like what the hell? So I mean, like I think if he actually sang a bit more, it would even give more credence to Tom because Tom's a fantastic singer.
Yeah.
But that was probably my major beef with the album for me was just the singing. I don't like it either.
Yeah.
So
Well, I guess we'll see what happens on the second one. I
yeah,
had no idea that it's going to be another one. They're going so
Yeah.
quickly.
yeah.
That's very different from Slayer, the pace they did new albums.
Well, for, the guy's been in active for so many years now, so I guess he's
Yeah,
chomping at the bit
probably.
to get out there and play and and do write songs and so I don't know. I guess he's got something. He's got an axe to grind or something to prove, right? So
Yep.
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep. Okay, so on that note, going back from Kerry King's solo band to Slayer, so we're going to talk about South Heaven. I did find this little interview clip.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to start with kind of the highlights because I think it does a good job kind of summarizing the South of Heaven album, and I'm pretty sure you guys would agree. But in this interview, Jeff Hanneman had said that the band specifically before they started writing the album to slow down the tempos relative to Rain and Blood. And they specifically set out with Tom to do more melodic singing again. So, they were basically saying, like, they just couldn't do Rain and Blood Part Two. There was no way to top it, so they wanted to do something different, and so this is what they landed on. And so he was also saying, which I think was interesting, because this was the only time as the band sat down to write any album where they sat down and predefined kind of direction. I mean, obviously, all the albums sort of sound like Slayer, but this is the one case where they very specifically said, we're going to change these factors relative to the previous album. So, and yeah, they definitely did.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think the album's characterized by a slower pace and definitely a bit more melodic. And Tom's clean singing stands out for me.
Yeah.
You guys agree with that?
Oh, I
Oh
totally
yeah.
agree. I totally agree. And also, I just wanted to point out that Tom wrote 6 of the 10 songs.
Yeah.
And this album, for me, I think this is their best album, like lyrically wise. I think there's a lot of really good topics on here. You're not getting the typical stock and slash and hail Satan shit all the way through it. You actually get variety and you get a lot of Tom's perspective on life. I think on what I've by analysis through all the lyrics. So to me, it's a really strong album in that
Yeah.
regards, in my mind, anyways. So
Oh,
that's the one thing I noticed.
I agree, Billy. I agree, Ken. You know, it's interesting too because they came from Rain and Blood. Then they had the idea. I read that article as well, where it was like, wow, they made a conscious effort to slow this down and maybe take a little bit more time in the sense of rather than just going 1,000 miles an hour. But
Yeah.
then when you go into the next album, Seasons, which I consider like I like that album. I consider it more of their commercial Black album, but I mean it kicks the Black album's ass. But it was
Mhm.
more, you know, the videos, and then you've had, you know, it looked like maybe a cleaned up Slayer from the previous albums. Like, oh wow, their hair's coiffed and whatever, but it still is a kick-ass album. But you can see where it kind of went from, you know, you got how, you know, you Rain and Blood was like is a masterpiece, and but I'll be honest, this album, South of Heaven, is my favorite Slayer album because I like that kind of slow down thing. But I mean, I'm talking, it's only a point of a point. My
Mhm.
second favorite, definitely Seasons, me and Rain and Blood, but it's a point of a point. I mean, I love Slayer,
Mhm.
and but yeah, this would be one of my favorite ones. I mean, I one of my top five would probably be Christ Illusion. Love that album. So, but yeah, I agree with that's so cool. That I love it how they decided openly, like, yeah, we're gonna maybe go in a bit of a slower direction. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Or slow for Slayer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure your average country fan would listen to South of Heaven and be like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah.
Uh, cool. The also interesting that yeah, I'm a big fan of this album, and
Mhm.
Kerry King only has like a writing credit on 3 of the 10 songs.
That's right. It's all
Um,
Tom,
yeah.
mostly
Well,
Tom.
Tom did all the lyrics. Right?
Yeah,
Hanneman did the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
most of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't think Tom has a single music writing credit.
No, no,
He has
no. It's all
all lyric.
lyrics.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah, yeah,
co-wrote a
yeah.
couple of songs with Carrie, but the majority of the lyrics are his.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So let's do our normal album song run through. So the
Oh,
opening
sorry,
tracks,
Billy.
also the title. Yeah.
Before we do, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to make a point of the album art because
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
it's kind of important here because this is Larry Carroll. Larry died a few years ago, actually, unfortunately, at the age of 64. But Larry was a really important artist, and I wanted to bring it up. For me personally, I'm bringing it up because he was a great deal of their image was because of him, and because he was a fine artist, a painter, who's exhibited like work around so many galleries across like the world, not just North America, but all over the world. He was a really seasoned artist. So he brought a huge dimension to the band with those covers that he did, like, you know, because he did Rain and Blood, he did you know, South of Heaven, Seasons in the Abyss, and then he came back for Christ Illusion years later. But I think he really helped contributed to the style of the band and their imagery back then. So those covers are amazing. And like South of Heaven, just because I wanted to bring this up too, the skull on South of Heaven is actually inspired by an archaic human skull found somewhere like in Kenya in 1972, based on some like I guess like an extinct tribe that lived there. So I think that's really fascinating. And you wouldn't, yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah, you wouldn't notice that, but such a great. I thought that was such a great thing. When I was reading about that, but yeah, I just wanted to quickly bring him up because I think it's important that
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
his work is very important to the imagery of Slayer overall at that time for me.
Yeah. I mean, the Rain and Blood and South of Heaven are like two of my all-time favorite album covers.
Yeah. And Ken, those are the only heavy metal album covers he did, correct?
Yeah, yeah, he didn't.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty interesting, eh? Like he didn't go off and do like, you know, a ton of like Megadeth and everybody else. No, he did those. I think that's so cool. And he did the cover for Christ Illusion as well, I believe.
You're right. Yeah, he came
The
back to do
original
that.
band copy with Jesus with his arms cut off. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that cover was actually banned in apparently in India.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it offended people in India, so they
Oh, it's
banned it.
one of my favorite covers. I love it.
Yeah, I like that cover too. But he came. They invited him back to do the cover because they were trying to go back to their classic style back then.
Yeah.
So they brought him in to do that. But yeah, he this is the only band he worked with, from what I know.
Great
Cool.
artist.
Absolutely.
Interesting. All right. Well, thanks for that, Ken. That's certainly good stuff. So yeah, let's jump into the individual tracks. Starting with the title track, South of Heaven. Ken, we'll go to you again here.
Yeah, South of Heaven's great. I mean, the opening riff, it's slow. You get the slow tempo. It's kind of eerie. It's hooky a little bit as well, and very evil sounding. I think.
Yeah.
It gets you going like really right at the beginning, and then at the 3 minute mark, like you get this like it gets really wild, and you get that ear piercing. It's just so ear piercing with the riffs, the screams. It's a very disturbing song. I think South of Heaven, in my mind, anyways. And I think as I think I was saying this in my notes that yeah, obviously you could see that they didn't want to repeat what they did with the last album. So everything slows down and goes to a halt. But by doing so, it just makes it so everything sounds so evil and dark in a lot of ways. And I love
Yeah.
Tom's lyrics here because he's talking about like the world is surrounded by darkness, and it's all but and he's talking about our bleak future, and it's all about chaos and the loss of morality. And I think he just lays it all out here in this opening track. But as an opening track, yeah, it's great. I love this song quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Yep. How about you, Jim?
Oh yeah, this could make my top 10. Spoiler alert. I mean, this is Slayer. This is Slayer. Start off with this song. I mean, holy geez, that riff that the song just breaks into, and
Mhm.
the riffs throughout the whole song are just fantastic. And this is the type of sound that, I mean, I'll be honest, like I wanted the Kerry King album to emulate this song, but anyways, I know they can't, but it would have been really, really cool. That ominous sound is so cool. And at about 145, the song just speeds up. And Tom's vocals on this, yeah, like Ken said, are just amazing. But I think this is, as I always say, this is definitely a drum track too. The
Mhm.
drums just stand out on it. But I mean, this and the ending's cool too. I like that. We're just kind of high pitched,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
a wicked, wicked track, and one of my favorite Slayer. Well, we'll see if it makes my list.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of hit on just about everything here. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was obviously like I remember going back to when I first bought this album. Like I was definitely taken back, like
Yeah.
after just hearing the first track here, South of Heaven. But I liked it though. Like I actually think, like Tom's actual singing. Like I just might like him better doing this than with
Mhm.
these just like all out screaming, right? Like he
Yeah.
is really damn good on this album. The riff and leads are all equally good, but it's not always about like Rain of Blood how fast they could play. It's just they're well written like leads or riffs, right? And slowing them down just again they sound like really good. So this is like a nice pace for Slayer. I always thought good use of tempo changes, and this is
Mhm.
like a great sing along chorus. This is something that's a great live track. But yeah, and then you had hit on it, Jim. But like re-listening to the track, like that sort of I don't know what you call it, the ending of the song, but like that amp feedback noise or
Yeah.
whatever it is, it's actually like 40 seconds.
Yep.
So it's like crazy long, but in a weird way, it perfectly sets up the next track, Silent Scream. So, yeah, like you said, I think it kind of all fits together with that kind of weird ending.
Well, I think Ghost will eventually cover this, as Tobias Forge covers every band.
Mhm.
This, I mean, this is just I love this song, and yeah, the ending's so cool for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So then that brings us into the second track, Silent Scream. This one's a little different. Jim, why don't you start us here?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're back to the 3 minute 307 song, so it's kind of like we go from almost a 5 minute song to we drop down to almost half. So wicked. I mean, this is a fast start, really good drum track again. And I mean, the guitar solo in it is wicked, just fast and just balls out. I love it. It has a thicker sound to it. And Tom's got kind of more of a lower registered voice on it. So I kind of like that. It's kind of almost like, I mean, if Slayer did kind of a little bit of a Doom song, it could be that, but it's too fast to be a Doom song. So, but I really like it. I mean, it's a great track. And it just takes off. I mean, it's probably, I think this and there's another one that are the fastest tracks
Yeah.
on the album for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, right? This one compared to South of Heaven is just executed with more
Yeah.
urgency. It really is like a shredder. But again, like I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but Dave stands out. Like he's fantastic on the track. Like his fills, like his drum fills are always so interesting. I mean, just like he did on Angel of Death, like you don't expect it, and then here comes the double bass at you. Like it's so great. The riff works pretty interesting on this. That guitar solo trade-offs at 1 minute and 40 seconds, it lasts a whole minute. Like
Yeah.
it's amazing, right? But yeah, and then Tom has like a really good scream. We talk about him singing on this album, but he still lets some of the screams. So this one ends on one of his great screams at the end. Ken, what would you like to add?
Well, it's actually like it's almost a political song in a sense because it's the song is Tom's stance and he wrote it about abortion. So it's interesting that it's the lyrics are really deep, and I thought it was interesting. So I was reading that the band actually as a band they all are united on the front that they're against the idea of abortion. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The song title was taken from or was inspired from a 1984 educational film called The Silent Scream,
Ooh.
which is about abortion, and it was directed by Jack Dabner, who was um, sort of a documentary filmmaker. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So like you could see that like politically there's obviously a political element or bent to the lyrics on the song, which is great. And I think that's why like the tempo is so immediate and then the riff is just so killer. It goes for the throat for that reason. But
Yeah.
when you kind of read about the song and about its origins, it just makes it that much more interesting because then you're hearing this kind of aggressive balls out music that kind of it's interesting how the song just reflects that. So yeah, this is a really good song as well, and it's different. You wouldn't have gotten that on Rain of Blood for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. So that moves us into track number three, Live Undead. And Ken, why don't you keep going on this one?
Yeah, Life Undead is a pretty cool song. It's co-written by Tom and Carrie, so they did this together. It's really, really heavy at the start. I love Tom's scream there at the 2:15 mark. That's just so great. It just
Yeah.
Yeah.
really, it just pushes the song right over the edge, and then like you get this like frantic pace with the riffs and all that right at the 2:40 mark, which is even better. And it's such a great song. It's just again short. It's short, but it gets right to the point. And then I know the song, it's all about the struggles of the human psyche, and you're trying to hold on to your sanity. And the song kind of references the idea of death, and it references cannibalism. And it's a very, very interesting track. Again, strong lyrics, but this song, yeah, this is a kick-ass song as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's funny, like the exact reference points for seconds, you called them out exactly as I noted them. But I like this track because I find it's like a mix of the first two songs, right? The
Mhm.
the first half is a slower, like in terms of pacing. So the first half of this track is kind of like the title track, but then when it takes off towards the end, it's more like Silent Scream.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I totally agree that that shout that Tom has is
Yeah,
fantastic, and like you said, the like at 2:45, like the song takes off,
oh
but it's
yeah,
I find it really interesting because usually you have two. It's like you'd have two guitarists like trading off the leads, but here it's almost like Tom singing and the guitar lead is trading off, right? It's
yeah.
really cool. It's like some unique songwriting. Like I like it. It's really good. It's a great chorus, actually. It works well live. So yeah, I think it's a really good one. Jim, what are your thoughts?
Oh, the biggest thing I got out of it was the fast solos towards the end mixed with Tom's vocals. It plays
Mhm.
off of each other, and I think that, you don't hear that a lot. So it's pretty cool. You either get one or the other, and I think that they both play off of each other, and that makes the song absolutely awesome. But you saying it's like a mix of the first two, absolutely. And like you've got like I mean, this album is so strong that even probably that would probably be one of the maybe lesser known songs, maybe for the more casual fan who'd listen to a lot of the hits off this. But it's a kick-ass song, and I love how they play off of each other, the guitar and Tom's vocals. It's genius. It's that cool.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Okay, great. So yeah, I think we're all on agreement there. We all came up with almost the same points as well. Uh, so moving to track number 4. So Jim, you're still on the hook here. Behind the crooked cross. What are your thoughts?
Fantastic song. One of my favorite songs.
Mhm.
Another one. I think Hanneman wrote the lyrics
Yep,
to this, and I think that's his own. Oh, he's got two writing credits, I think,
yep,
on this album. Yeah.
yep.
So, I mean, it's just wicked. I mean, that intro with the guitars, but I find Tom's got some lighter, little bit higher vocals. So, I mean, it's just again, I think Ken talked about it when he was talking about the Kerry King solo project with Mark's vocals, trying to emulate a little bit of Tom's vocals. But this is this whole album, but this song is a classic example of Tom's ability to change his vocal ability throughout the album, and I think this song really showcases that. And that's why, and you brought it up there, Ken, when you said like it would have been good for Mark to maybe spread his wings a little bit on the solo project and not necessarily shout and try to do the old school kind of array vocalization. But this is a evidence that Slayer doesn't have to do that, even though I mean I like it really anyway. But I kind of like his vocal kind of change up on this song. But no, this is a tight song. This is just wicked, and no, I love this song.
Ken, do you agree?
Oh yeah, this is one of my favorite songs because it's a Jeff Hanneman song, first of all.
Yeah.
And obviously his love for the idea, because I know he was a collector of like Nazi memorabilia and stuff like that. So the song, from his perspective, is he's talking about the swastika and it's such an oppressive symbol, and that soldiers who were, I guess, Nazi soldiers had to their struggle if they were struggling if they were against the idea of fighting for the Third Reich. So I think that's really fascinating. One little tidbit though, that I found is that Hanneman actually hates the song, which is weird. I've read that
Really?
he doesn't like the song and never wanted to play it live. But according to Kerry said this is the one song he wanted to play live because he likes the riff in it. He liked the main riff and wanted to play it. So they always had an argument going back and forth about the song. So they never played it. I think they played it maybe according to what Kerry says. Now you can take that with a grain of salt. Maybe 2 or 3 times, but Hanneman never wanted to play it. So whenever it came up in the set list, he was like, "No, I don't want to play it," which is odd because I think it's for a Hanneman song. It's a typical song for Jeff Hanneman for the kind of, I mean, for his like and subject matter. But I think it's a great song too. Like it has it all. Like you fast, aggressive guitars, the pounding drums. You got intense vocals. It's dark. It's powerful. Like I think it's a great song overall. So I'm a little surprised that I found out that Jeff wasn't like into it. So weird. But yeah, this is a
Yeah.
great song.
It's interesting. I was really curious to hear the view you guys had because
Mhm.
uh, I love the song. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's probably the most underrated Slayer track. And
Mhm.
yeah, they never play it. I've never seen it live. And I went to check up the stats. And yeah, like there's a handful of times. But it's interesting. Every single review, well, I shouldn't say every single, but the majority of every review about this album hates this song.
Yes.
Yeah, I
It's
know
so
that. Yeah.
not like and I've actually seen interviews where Kerry was even asked, and he said he hates the song. So like I mean, they're all over the place, but the band themselves, I think either way, whoever it is, whether it be Jeff or it's Kerry or Tom, I mean, they don't like to play it, right? So they're just,
Mhm.
I don't get it. But I also think the song is kind of characterized by Tom's cleanness singing, right?
Yeah.
Like he's singing so clean on this thing. It's yeah, it's shocking. Like and yeah, like somebody said that Hanneman wrote the track. Yeah, like and it had to be Hanneman who would write this. I mean, Kerry's like way too like one dimensional and he's got to write the track like just balls out full speed. So yeah, but I think I love the song and I'm always like disappointed it never gets played. And I'm always shocked that so many people don't like this song, including the band. It's
Same.
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's very strange. You're right.
yeah. So yeah, so track number 5, Mandatory Suicide. Ken, how about you keep going?
Oh yeah, this is a great song too. I This is another song that I really like, and you can see here Tom like stretches his abilities all the way through. Like he wrote the lyrics. Obviously, Carey wrote the music. But I think it's interesting that it kind of plays off. It sort of plays off the war theme a bit here as well, because from what Tom has written is that basically it's a soldier fighting in World War II, falls on the beach in Normandy, and he's watching in terror as all the people around him are being gunned down by Nazi by German soldiers. So it's a really powerful song in that regards. I think it's great. But what I like about this song is the fact that it's so aggressive at the start. Like you get that Tom has that scream that really adds to the song. It's got again you get the slow tempo to the then you get that heavy chug. I almost feel like there's a little bit of a Ride the Lightning vibe with just the way the primitive riff is. It's just kind of it's hard hitting and it's kind of meaty and it just works for me. And I also like the spoken word part, which is I think
Yeah.
the best part of the song for me. The last 3 minutes when he starts to recite the spoken words, and then you get these kind of weird background noises. Like I think there's a bit of drums. There's like an echoey, haunting sound. It
Yeah.
really like oh this is like a beat poet like doing a spoken word thing almost in a thrash metal song. It's so great. And I read that the spoken word portion of it is him describing a soldier's death, which is interesting. I'm not sure I would have taken extrapolated that out of it, but I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, it's a great song.
Mm, cool. Yep. Jim?
Oh yeah. I mean, at 305 point, that spoken word makes the song, and I love that 105 yell, that scream from
Yeah,
Tom. It's wicked. I mean, this is another favorite of mine. I mean, I like it how the guitars build up, like it builds up the tempo of the song, and it just keeps going. And I mean, this has just got the classic Slayer intro sound, and yeah, this is a wicked. That's one of my favorite songs. I mean, it's highlight on the album for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much hit everything I had here. Yeah, for me, it's one of my favorites. But yeah, that like main riff is like a
Oh,
total earworm. It's so good. I mean, that lead solo at 2 minutes, just might be the best lead work on the record.
mm-hmm.
And then as Ken said, at 250, when the narrative voice kicks in, like that's just so haunting. It's really cool. And then those odd noises in the
Yeah,
background,
yeah,
right? Yeah, it's like the little drums and the awkward guitar in the background. And then you just get Tom let loose on that final scream at the end.
yeah.
Yeah, this one's a classic for sure.
yeah.
So then that brings us to track number 6, Ghosts of War. Jim, why don't you continue?
Yeah, I mean, this is another one that's got a little bit of craziness to it because I've got a quote here of like Kerry King. You know, he wanted to play behind the crooked cross, but then he doesn't like this song, Ghosts
Yeah.
of War. So he says it's not my favorite song. He likes the ending, and he'd like to put the heavy ending at the end of Chemical Warfare and just do it in the last half, but he never got a chance to do it. But he says fans, this and obviously Behind the Crooked Cross, fans want to hear those two songs being played. But yeah, I think it's got a killer lo-fi intro. That 20 seconds before Tom's vocals cut in, and it's got a cool effect with that. And I like his vocals in it. And again, it's got another solo trade-off that I really, really like. I think it's a good song. It's funny because I don't understand these guys. They write their own songs, then they don't like them. So,
Yeah.
because I believe Kerry King wrote this song. So
Yeah, he
like,
did. Yes, yes.
but I like it. I like the heaviness to the back end. I mean, he also wrote one of his few one of his few notes that he did. He actually wrote some of the music with Hanneman on this. So, but I just don't understand how these guys, they write a really cool song and the fans eat it up. I mean, like he even says that the fans are always asking for to play this and Behind the Crooked Cross, and they never do. So it's just it's puzzling, you know.
Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, Jim. Like I really like this one.
Yeah.
Although like I always found the opening weird. I don't know, this may be what you meant by the sound effects, but
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
that first like,
Yeah.
15, 20 seconds, it's so low. And then the whole thing, like just all the music in the band and Tom's much louder. So yeah, like I'm glad I'm not crazy like other people see that too. Um but yeah, this is great. One of the most addictive choruses on the album. It's fantastic. And we haven't mentioned Dave in a few songs, but he's really good at this, right? He has some really interesting drum work. At 240, like that Slayer riff, like it's perfect, right? We're used to fast Slayer riffs, but this one's like much slower, like, but it's so evilly good. Just totally love it. The whole last half of the song, like I think is fantastic. It's a great one. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you guys pretty much had hit it, hit. You pretty much you nailed all my points. The only thing I'll say is I often wonder lyrically if Carey was trying to compete with Jeff by writing another song that sort of suggests the idea of dead soldiers coming back to life and getting their revenge. It's kind of funny. It's weird in that regards, but I agree with Jim. It's like you wrote the song. Why the hell do you hate it? Like I don't get it either. Like I don't know. It's odd, but it's a great song. I love the last few the last minute of the song is great. That
Yeah.
thrashing chug, it's like an engine going. It's just great. It just drives everything to me. But yeah, I noted the same thing as you guys did, like the muted guitars at the start, and then it breaks into Tom like in full force. It's like, whoa,
Oh
okay.
yeah.
It's I'm noticing it, and we've talked about this in other thrash albums and other bands. It's a device. It seems to be a device that a lot of these, maybe it's a trope that a lot of these bands are using now to like, oh, you start something with something that's soft and slow, and then you just snap of the fingers and you get this wham bam right in your face bombastic riff or scream or shout, because Megadeth did it a lot too. So it's kind of interesting, but overall, yeah, this is a really good song.
Cool. So then that leads us into track number 7, a shorter one, Read Between the Lines. Ken, you're still on the spotlight here.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the song is all right. It's not one of my favorites. Tom did write it. He co-wrote it with Kerry. I like the opening chug. I like the way that it pounds at the start. Like you get the sledgehammer, and it's just wow.
Yeah.
It's blunt force, and then that when the riff kicks in, it's like oh, it just drives that whole song. It's interesting. I mean, again, I find it like it's a trope because and Tom's talking about the idea of a TV evangelist and they're trying to criticize preachers and how they manipulate their flock, and so it's kind of interesting. The chorus is like the best part. I love the chorus, and I love the vocal delivery too. Like at times Tom sings it like I don't think this is the best way to describe it, but it's got a rap like approach, like a rapper. It's just the way he's enunciates the words and he's getting them out there. So I like it. It's a bit more unique for Tom on the singing end of it, but it's still a pretty good song. It's short, but still pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the Tom. Like his phrasing is really unique on this
Mm-hmm.
track. I think it's quite good. Yeah, it's a shorter track. I mean, I don't think I have too much to add, but again, Dave does a pretty good job as usual on the drum side of things. Jim, anything you want to add?
I mean, it's a good track. I just wrote heavy Slayer track, drum track. I mean, and yeah, I mean Tom's voice on it's really cool. And but yeah, it's probably like obviously, I mean, we got a killer song coming up here, but for me, but I mean, side one is definitely a heck of a lot stronger than side two. But this is still a great song. I mean, it'd probably be my last pick on the album, only because I had to put them in order. There'd have to be a last or a close to last. But I still like the song. I think it's great. Yeah.
Yep. So then we roll into another fairly short song, or actually two fairly short songs coming up. Number eight, Cleanse the Soul. Jim, why don't you continue here?
Oh yeah, this is a good fast song with that heavy. I kind of has that intro like an old school Slayer intro, and it's got really cool time changes on it at 2:45. So the song's only 3 minutes and 2 seconds. So for about 17 seconds, that guitar solo is just fantastic, and I like it how the song just kind of stops. It's got
Yeah.
like a sudden stop to it. But no, this is a cool song. This is probably in my top four, I'd say, on the album. I really like this song, and it definitely is a return to that fast layer, uh, uh, heavy song. I mean, it's this could have probably even made its way on Rain and Blood, possibly, but no, I like it. It's one of my favorites on the album.
Yeah, I agree too. It's a great song. And I even get the like you said, back to like an older Slayer song.
Yeah,
I even go way back to the beginning, right? Like to me, this could be something in an odd way. It kind of reminds me of something like "Die by the Sword,"
true.
like a very old school, straightforward Slayer song. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. And even the riff is kind of technical in a couple spots, which sort of stands out for me. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is funny because I'm going to say this, and again, this is what Kerry says. He said that this is the worst track they've ever written. He
Ah,
hates he hates this song. He said that he's embarrassed. It's a black mark on the Slayer discovery. That's what he said. I've read. I'm like, what?
Well,
What?
I'm just
I don't know.
looking up who wrote this. Is so this is Hanneman,
Yeah, but King. But yeah, this is written. No, actually, no. This is co-written by Tom and Kerry. Wrote
but
this
just the
song.
lyrics, not the music.
Lyrics. No, 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 not the lyrics wise. But I'm
Yeah,
saying
I guess
though.
this is like the perfect thing about how I always talk about I don't listen to the lyrics. I always go right to who wrote the music.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
know you like the lyrics, so that's one way we're different, but we complement each other.
Well, I like the lyrics on the song because to me they're the whole point of the song is that they're examining the idea of a body that's
Mhm.
dying. So they're sort of waxing on the idea of how death, I guess, how the transformation from life to death. So it's kind of interesting to me. I love the song. It's morbid. It's very macabre. The lyrics are all macabre. But I just going back to that point that King says he hates the track. Says it's an embarrassment to the Slayer discovery, which I'm like, what? But I
But
think
does
it's a
that
really
mean
good song.
he hates
Yeah.
the lyrics or he hates the music?
I
Because
think he hates the song itself overall, music and
so
lyrics.
both.
Yeah. as far
Hmm.
as what I've read. But I mean, like I said, you can take what he's saying with a grain of salt because I think he talks out of both sides of his mouth. For
Yeah.
me
I
personally,
agree. I agree for sure.
like he can be an ass and he can be smart, but he does a bit of both. So I don't know if he's like
Yeah.
trying to goad people into a fight. I don't know. For me, I think it's a great song. It's dark. It's got a lot of fast chug. It's very aggressive tempo. That riff is so blistering. And it goes at a torrid pace. I love it. I think it's a really really good song, and it does sort of have a throwback feel to like earlier classic Slayer. And I think that's the reason why I like the song. But
Yeah, I would that's right where I stand on that too. Yeah.
yeah,
All right, cool. So Ken, well, we still got you here. So up next, track number 9, Dissident Aggressor. This, of course, being a cover
yeah.
from Priest. What are you thinking here?
I love the song. I'm gonna say this. I like this song over the pre song. To be honest, the pre song's all right, but like I don't know. I don't mind it, but I can't take Rob's screams on the song. Like he's just basically screaming the lyrics. But I prefer it here. For me personally, I like it. I like how they've adapted the song. I like Tom's vocals on the song a lot. It's great. I think this is a fantastic song, and I like the way that he enunciates the words. Stand, fight. Like I prefer it. I think it's a better version than the original, but that's just my opinion. I know people love Priest and love Sin After Sin. I don't personally. It's not one of my favorite. I'm not a fan of early Priest. I like the later stuff a lot more. But this is a really really good song for a cover.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I actually like it better than the original as well.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, like I think Slayer, to your point, actually make it their own, right? This thing fits perfectly on this album. Like it's not out of place relative to the other tracks. Like it doesn't, if somebody didn't know this was a cover, they would
Right.
think this was just a Slayer song on the album.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like I actually think Carrie and Jeff like do a good job with the twin leads, right? They do KK and Glenn justice covering the track. So yeah, I like it a lot. Jim, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Okay, so like Kerry King's quoted saying that he wanted this song on there because he
It's his
loves the
favorite song.
song.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, two things. Number one, this Sin After Sin's my favorite Judas Priest album. So right off the bat, I'm very I'm gonna
Mhm.
side with that. It's great. I love the Priest Starbreaker on that album, Sinner, Diamonds and Rust. I mean, that's a classic album. It was the first metal album I actually got. So I got it used at a flea market. So that's probably I wouldn't say it's their best album, but it's my favorite Judas Priest album. But and then Slayer has totally dissected it and made it their own. And yeah, the leads there, doing the Glenn and KK. I mean, it's just awesome, and it really they made it their own. And when you're talking, usually I hate covers, but I got to be honest, this one was amazing and it adds to the album. I don't think it detracts from it. They made it their own, and I bet you 5 out of 10 people who were buying this for the first time, probably, in the mid to end 80s, you've got, a lot of people didn't know that this was a track from 1977. I bet you a lot of people just assumed it was a Slayer track because it sounds like it. They've remastered it to be their own Slayer track. So, but yeah, it's great. It totally adds to the album as far as I'm concerned, and I'm really glad they did it. And it's a song that they didn't go and do something like Anarchy in the UK by the Sex Pistols. They decided to do something really cool and maybe a little bit off the beaten path, and I like that. So, but no, it's a great. I think it's a great homage to Judas Priest, and they just absolutely kill it. Yeah.
Well, you know why they picked the song? Jeff liked the war theme lyrics. That's the reason why
Oh,
they picked
really?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the reason why
Great.
they picked. I know you said that it was Carrie's favorite song, which apparently it is, but I also read that Jeff loves the lyrics because it's war theme, so it kind of
Yeah.
it fits the album. So that's why they took it or why they chose it.
Plus, it's less than 3 minutes long,
Yeah.
so it's it fits into the sort of Slayer makeup of the fast songs.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally true. Okay, so then we've made it all the way to the final song. Spill the Blood. Jim, why don't you keep going?
Oh man, this is a killer ending to a great album. I mean, I love this. And Hanneman wrote the lyrics to it. It's got that cool acoustic intro, and then it's got spots of the acoustic throughout the song, which I really like. But 30 seconds in, that song just rips. I mean, what a way to end off the album. And Tom's vocals are great on it. And I think it's about 3 minutes, 15 seconds, 16 seconds where the acoustic guitar kind of comes back. And then it kind of grooves off with the electric guitar where it picks up a lot more. So it's got a really cool sound to it. And I think I would assume probably Ken's gonna like it because it's a Hanneman song. But it's great. What a great way to end off the album. And I'm glad they put this last and not the cover. I think that's smart because it just they kind of bookend it. It doesn't feel like the cover was just a filler or an extra. It kind of has its space on the album. So I love the fact that they have this as the final track on the album.
Hmm. Cool. I think I'm gonna go in the middle because I think I'm gonna be the outlier here.
Okay.
Uh, so I'm actually not like it's a good track,
Mhm.
but I'm not the biggest fan of this one. Like to me, like I find this style of this track, and this sort of goes back to what we talked about on one of our recent podcasts where we talked about the Seasons in the Abyss album. Like
Mhm.
for me, this sort of writing and this song structure is the preview for Dead Skin Mask and Seasons in the
Mm.
Abyss. I hear so much of the songwriting of those two songs that I'm not the biggest fan of in this track. And so I'm not a big fan of those two songs on Seasons, and I'm not a fan here. I mean, all the musicianship is great, and it's still a great Slayer song, but there's just something about this style that doesn't click with me from a Slayer perspective. But I'm probably an outlier. So, Ken, over to you.
Yeah, I think you are there, Billy, because I agree with him. I love this song. I mean,
Yeah.
not because it's Hanneman, also because I like it's clever because of the lyrics. You could interpret him in a couple of ways. It could be about the idea of blood sacrifice to Satan, or you could look at it as that it's about vampires, because
Mhm.
vampires need blood for immortality. So it's clever in that regards, and maybe to some degree it does kind of hark back to earlier Slayer with that kind of ferocity with some of their imagery and ideas. So I think for me, yeah, that's why I like it. But I also think it is a good bookend song. Like it sort of
Mhm.
complements the song 1 to song 10 because you got the slower tempo at the start, and then it builds up, and then you get this like supercharged banger that's all full of rage and aggression. And then Tom's so great on the vocals here. He just kills it right through. So I think for me it's a good song the way it ends. I mean, I can kind of see some of your points, Billy, about the Seasons in the Abyss, but I again I like Seasons as well. So I don't. So
Yeah.
I'm on the gym side of things. I love this song. It's a great
Yeah.
way to close things off.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. We all hear things
Oh yeah,
uniquely.
yeah, for
So,
sure. Like
uh,
everyone's different. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Okay, so cool. So that kind of gets us through. So 10 songs, still pretty short album, right? Like
Yeah.
37 minutes. I mean, it's a huge leap in terms of length from Rain and Blood, but still on the shorter side.
Yeah.
Somewhat, yeah, somewhat, but the fact that they decide to slow things down is where I think it gets its
Yeah,
points for me, because now you can actually hear the riffs, you can hear what's going on, and it's
yeah,
much
I
more
agree.
powerful than just all the way through for like 26 minutes, and then you sort of like it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I know Billy and I did the Rain and Blood podcast with Blake on the Metal Pit, but for me, when I like just for a sec, when I first heard that album, it I was speechless. I was like, because a buddy of mine's like, "Harry, you have to hear this," and I never heard. I knew of Slayer, but never actually heard any of their music. So when I heard Rain and Blood, I was like, holy Christ, like it blew me away. I had
Mhm.
we borrowed my buddy's vinyl. I went over to a buddy's house, and the three of us just sat there and played it, and we were like, wow, I was speechless because it just went from beginning to end, and it so much ferocity and so much anger and speed. It was great. And then you get this, which is like the total opposite, but it's a good opposite because now you get this you get songs where you can hear what's going on, and it's still evil sounding, but I guess in a different way. I guess what I'm saying is, at the end result is they achieved the same goal, going fast or going slow. They still got the same kind of atmospheric sound all the way through it. But yeah, I think this is a great album as well.
Mm.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Well said. I mean, they're both perfectly contrast each other, but
Yeah.
they're both like perfect Slayer albums, just in a slightly different way.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay. So then moving on to the final part of the podcast. So we haven't done this before, ranking songs. So our top 10 songs out of all the Slayer tracks out there. So lots to choose from. Jim, do you want to start on this one?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
Go for it,
Jim's
Jim.
ready to go.
So my number 10, throwing something newer in there. Jihad from Christ Illusion, wicked, wicked
Oh,
song. Probably, well, it's in my top 10, so it's one of my favorites. Love that song, love that album, love the artwork on it, love everything about that album. I think that's a wicked album. Number 9 will be Mandatory Suicide from this. Number 8, which is a wicked, wicked song. At Dawn They Sleep. Love that song. That's a wicked song. Number 7, there's going to be a lot of seasons in here, Billy. So I hope you're okay
I
with
like
it.
half the album.
Hollowed Point, number 7. Love that song. It's just friggin' amazing. But my number 6 is I had Skeletons in Society on there. Cross it off uh the other day, and I put Behind the Crooked Cross, my top 6 song. I mean, this album's my favorite Slayer album, so why the hell not? Number 5, I'll keep it going with South of Heaven. Number 4, Angel of Death. I mean, come on, and I mean, there's so many. This list could change, but Angel of Death, one of my favorite songs. Number 3, I know Billy's not a fan, but Dead Skin Mask. Love that song. Oh man, that's the one of the creepiest songs that you ever get to hear. You got that. You've got the serial killer. You got the kid's voice. It's just got that. Tom's kind of got a spoken word. It's just so friggin' cool. Number 2, Black Magic. We're going way back, and we'll keep going with number 1, Tormentor. I mean, amazing,
oh,
amazing stuff. I love Show No Mercy. I think my first Slayer album I got was Haunting the Chapel, I think, and then I picked up Show No Mercy after that. So it was pretty neat getting that. I think I got it like Sam the Record Man or somebody had it was, it's only the EP. So they had it for like $5 or something. I remember picking it up, and me and my buddies just like, oh man, this is so cool. Long before the internet, where you could just go on and check out Apple Music or whatever and go, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But oh yeah, like, and I often wonder, I've talked about this in Megadeth last week and Metallica when we talk. I always want to go back. I wish I could bottle that feeling of hearing some of this stuff for the first time, because that sort of bottled promise of joy. You only get to feel it and hear it once. It's I guess it's kind of like new car smell to some degree. Just amazing. So going back and listening to these, I mean, I listen to Slayer weekly. It's in my playlist. Something from Slayer's in my playlist weekly. So, but that's my list.
cool.
Cool. Okay.
All right. So number 10, I had Beauty Through Order, track number 4 from World Painted Blood.
Nice.
It's a Hanneman song. I like it because it's about the Countess Bathory and the whole story of her like needing blood to remain youthful. I think it's a really good song. Number nine, I have the Skeleton Christ from Christ Illusion. So that's track number three. I like that song quite a bit. I think it's got some. It's got some a good punch. It packs a good punch. Number eight, I have Divine Intervention, track five from Divine Intervention. Probably the only song that I really like off that album. That album is okay, but I've always liked that song. I'm going now number seven, which is Die by the Sword from Show No Mercy. I love that song. That's such
Yeah.
a great song. It's so primitive and so it just goes through the throat.
Yeah.
Number six, at Dawn They Sleep from Hell Awaits. I love that song too. That's a wicked song. Such a wicked song. Number five, I have Kill Again from a track number two from Hell Awaits, which is another song that I really, really like as well. And of course, Billy, I know you don't like Dead Skin Mask, but I gotta agree with Jim. It's my number four. It's so what you said, Jim, was exactly what I said. It's creepy. And even at the end when it says, "Come on, Mr. King," like I love that.
Ed Gein?
What's that?
Is the killer Ed Gein? Ed Gein?
I think no. It's actually a combination of I think three or four serial killers.
Oh, okay.
But you could take Ed Gein, but he sort of. I think he was referring to this guy named Andrew, who was a British serial killer who murdered a lot of kids. But I think you could it's interchangeable. You can take any. But the Dead Skin Mask.
Not to interrupt, but when the kid says, "I don't want to play anymore," it's like, oh man, that's just it's like that's freaky.
Yeah, but the Dead Skin Mask, I believe, does refer to Ed Gein. So I would think that would be the main source. But I think it's a great song.
Yeah.
Number three, South of Heaven. I think I love that song. Number two is Raining Blood, which to me is a fantastic song, and Angel of Death is my ultimate favorite. So the two bookend songs I think are their two best songs in my mind, just based on that's such a great album. But I love Angel of Death. Jeff Hanneman track, it's such a great song.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's
we got a couple overlaps even in the same spot, Ken.
Oh, okay, cool.
But maybe not the Dead Skin Mask though. So my number 10, South of Heaven. I also, just out of curiosity, we don't normally talk about how often the songs were played live, but given that, I was just curious to how my favorites kind of compared to, like versus what they actually play. So my number 10, South of Heaven. Interestingly, it's their third most played live track, so probably not surprising based on my experience. Number nine, like you, Ken, I had Die by the Sword from Show No Mercy. This was one of the first Slayer songs I ever heard, so definitely some nostalgia at play. That was the 12th most played live track. Number eight for me, actually, Seasons comes up on my list. This is War Ensemble. So I just think it's a fantastic thrash anthem, a staple of the live show. Like, I always play this one. And this ended up being the fourth most played live track. And so like that, when Tom does that scream, like War Ensemble, it just makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Like it's so intense, that scream. Number seven, going to Hell Awaits, the actual title track, also the ninth most live played song ever. I mean, that opening 1 minute intro was so evil. Like it kind of freaked me out when I first heard it. Just a great song. Number eight, I'm going to Haunting the Chapel, Chemical Warfare. This is like a brilliant early classic. And this is a song that, it's their seventh most played live track, and it's something that they still play quite a bit. And I love these old songs, but when the band plays them live in like the last decade they were playing, because just a lot of these older songs suffer for like the mix and the sound quality is not the greatest, but when they play these things like live, they're just incredible. Some great guitar trade-offs on that one. Number five for me, and now you're going to see my my love for Rain and Blood coming up here. But I've got Jesus Saves, number 5.
Oh,
It's both vicious and incredibly catchy. So I differ here versus the amount of times played live. It's my number 5, but the 19th most played live song. Number 4, I go to Postmortem, also from Rain and Blood.
mhm.
Just love the evil rhythm to this song, but it's like the perfect intro to Raining Blood, right? I almost view it as the intro. That's the 10th most played live Slayer track. Number 3 for me is At Dawn They Sleep from Hell Awaits. Just love this track. That's the 16th most played live song. And then just like Ken, the two best thrash songs ever written, end of story, period on the sentence. Raining Blood 2, An Angel of Death number 1. And this kind of surprised me because like actually Raining Blood is played way more, well, not way more, but it's by a good couple hundred, played more often than Angel of Death, which
Really?
Death is the
Wow.
second most played song, which
Hmm.
I don't know. That could be an error in the stats because I've never seen a Slayer show, and I've seen them like 40 times, where they haven't played Angel of Death. So that could
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
a stats error because that doesn't make sense. They
No.
usually play both, but I
Yeah. Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Angel not being number one.
Hmm. Yeah. Every time I've seen Slayer, they play both songs. So you're right about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. It's probably just a stats error or something. So yeah, no, that was cool. That was fun. Anything else you guys want to say about Slayer or the album?
Oh,
Yeah, it's a great album. You can't go wrong with it. Funny when I was posting on Facebook during the week, I'm getting all these people saying, "Yeah, that's my favorite Slayer album."
yeah.
So I think it's kind of cool that people, I guess, are resonating with the album itself. Um, I don't know. There's not one bad album for me. Like you, really, all the earlier '80s stuff is pure classic. You can't go wrong with Seasons. I know Jason left the comment. He says that he loves this album and Seasons the most, which is
Hmm.
which is kind of cool. But I don't know. Raining Blood is a great album. Seasons is a great album. South is a fantastic album. Like these are all great albums. There's nothing. They've progressed from album to album. I think. I mean, they kind of dip in the '90s a little bit with some of those weird, like God Hates Us All and music, Diabolus and Musica, which is a bit strange at times, but you
Mm.
know, you can't go wrong with classic Slayer.
Yep, I certainly can't argue that point.
Yeah.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Okay, cool. Or Jim, sorry, did you have something?
Oh no, just I agree. I mean, I think probably in the '90s you got Diabolus and Musica is probably their weakest for me, but I still will listen to it. But yeah, you can't everything from Seasons down. I mean, you just can't. And Seasons was cool because I just think it was like they got a lot of video play on Much Music and MTV, and they went a little more kind of I think a little more radio friendly, although as radio friendly as you can get for Slayer. I
Yeah.
mean, Dead Skid Mask is on there, but I just think it's just so cool. And I mean, what a band, in the Big Four. And again, I have my money in my hand to see them live. I have my money in my other hand to get another album. I don't care, but I would love, actually, better than a new album. I would actually love a live recording of maybe their two gigs they're gonna do. That would be phenomenal. Like do another double live like War at the Warfield there, where they did the Slayer a live album. I think that would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I still, for the life of me, cannot figure out why those final shows, like I
Mhm.
forget whether it was 2 or 3 in LA on the farewell tour. So they were doing multiple shows. So they like why they didn't release like a live album and a DVD. Because when you do
Mm.
multiple shows, you can correct errors. You have tapes from different nights. So I'm just stunned. Like I don't get why we don't have any material from those final shows.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, but
I
it
mean,
just it might just be that they're not. let's just put it this way: if Dave was always angry because they couldn't get their business, like they couldn't get the business side of things straightened out, maybe this is part of it. They just weren't smart enough to realize that a live recording and a DVD would have been something to leave fans with, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe that could have been it. Hard to
yeah, I
say.
don't know.
But you know what? It could be like it's the same thing like as the Children of Bodom live, their last live show that they did before Alexi passed away. They have they just released it in December of last just December past. So maybe maybe they are planning it. Maybe they do have it in the vault, so to
Maybe.
speak, because like Children of Bodom released that to kind of give the fans it's the last show, and it's a wicked album. And for Children of Bodom fans, I thought that was pretty cool how they did it. I mean, not pretty cool, but obviously they had disbanded before the death of Alexi Laiho, so
Mhm.
I guess they probably always had the thought of maybe releasing this, but it just it was a great homage to him as well, to the leader of the band. But I think I agree with you, Billy. They had to have recorded that. I mean, at least they had to have done something, and they should
Yeah.
really do something. Yeah.
Yeah. The other interesting I mean, related to that, because they did have the business sense to do this, right? Like we all know, like especially the more extreme bands, right? They're not making money selling music. They're
Yeah.
mainly making money on the road, and the most profitable is generally the selling their merch. Like I remember reading, I think Carrie actually said it in an interview, or somebody said it, maybe Tom, but they actually pulled in from that farewell tour, which for a thrash band is really cool, like almost $4 million in
Wow.
t-shirt sales
Cool.
across
Oh yeah.
that tour, right? So they obviously had the sense to have, like many shows I go to, and they don't have any, they have half the sizes missing. I mean, they had everything well stocked at every show, and I got a t-shirt at every show. And so yeah, they had the sense to clean up that way on the t-shirt sales.
Well, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes
When you
sense.
think about it, Slayer shirts are on par. Like you've got Maiden and Motorhead. I mean, Maiden's the definitely the leader for merch, but Slayer's not far behind. Everybody wants to wear a Slayer shirt. I mean, it's just awesome.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
no.
Makes
All
sense.
right, cool. So yeah, it looks like we're kind of in our normal length of time here. So probably we'll wrap it up. And so next week we kind of or I let it out of the bag. Next week's topic is Sepultura, of course, legendary thrash band from Brazil, and we're going to tackle the classic from 1989, Beneath the Remain. So I can't wait to do that one. That's like a top five all-time album for me. Love that track. Um, so yeah, so thanks everyone for tuning in. As always, we really appreciate everyone's support and viewing. And Jim and Ken, thank you both for participating as well.
Absolutely. It was fun.
Great. Have a good night.
Yep. Good night, everybody.